So much, Caitlin. That's all for Fox 32 News at noon. The news continues on Chicago Live on Fox Local. Have a great day.
Sherry.
Usual here. So let's go over some of the things that we are putting together, kind of have lined up for this first hour that we have together. A unique challenge for the IHSA girls lacrosse games in the NCAA Final Four. They actually overlap in terms of the scheduling here. So fans, the insiders, they're calling out the scheduling conflict. In fact, they have a petition that's set up now to reschedule the games. They say we want to be a part of history. I think about losing out on that opportunity if that's really your next step. Also, there's growing concern over the trajectory of the Iran war and bond yields rising and mortgage rates following suit here. So we have a bank rate financial analyst who's going to be chiming in. But I'll tell you what, this first half hour is going to be extra special because we're not just Chicago Live today. We're also Detroit Live. We have Fox Detroit anchor Brandon Hudson who's joining me. Hi there.
Anita, how are you?
Doing all right, doing all right. Thanks so much for taking this time to do something a little different today. Tell me, did you just finish up your show?
Yeah, so we did an hour and a half because we have the Tigers game on Fox 2 here in Detroit. And so we decided for our stream, we were doing an extra 30 minutes at 12:30, and then we did our show at 1 o'clock. But I heard about this opportunity. It's an honor to be here, and I appreciate it. I heard we've been working on this for a while. So it would just so happen that on the day we tried to make this happen, one of the biggest stories of the week and probably the month so far with former Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan dropping out of the race for Michigan governor. It broke around 10:30 this morning, and so we have been scrambling to try to. We had to change our 1 o'clock show a bit, but we're here, and we're happy to be with you.
We're so glad, and that's a huge story. So tell us more.
Mm-hmm. So here's the deal. Mayor Mike Duggan, he ran as a write-in back in 2014 for Detroit mayor. And so he was kind of a relative unknown in Detroit. People knew of him in Wayne County, which is where Detroit is. But he was a write-in in 2014, and then he ran for 3 terms and became one of the most beloved figures here in Detroit. He worked closely with the Biden administration, and during the end of his term, he worked with the Trump administration. For the past 18 months, he had been campaigning to run for governor, but instead of running for governor as a Democrat, which is what he is known for, he decided to run as an independent because he just got tired of that 2-party system. He said, look, the Democrats and the Republicans are always bickering, always fighting. So he thought this would be a great opportunity to run as an independent, make some headway, and really give people a candidate that they can rally around, not just, with the partisan politics. And so So we had the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce. Mm-hmm. They had a poll out in January and February, which showed him in the lead. And even though it was a dead heat, he was in the lead 30%. He was leading the Democratic frontrunner, who was our Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, at 29%. And then he led the Republican frontrunner, who is current Congressman John James, at 28%. And then something happened. Over the past 2 months, they took another poll. So another poll came out at the end of April, beginning of May, and it showed that Jocelyn Benson, the Democratic frontrunner, had leaped ahead to 34%. John James kind of remained the same at 29%, but Duggan slipped to 23%, and then there was a 14% undecided. So he had slipped a number of points. He had a news conference at 1:30. We had it here live, and he said that he did not see a path forward to victory. So he decided now is the best time to drop out. And we had one of our political science experts, political science professor, to speak to us. He said the surprising thing about this is that it's only May. And, our primary is not until August. So he's dropping out in May. And you kind of think, well, yeah, he's an independent candidate, running as independent, probably should have ran as a Democrat. But even though he's loved in Detroit, people know him in Southeast Michigan, how well do people really know him on the west side of the state, which is more conservative? How well do people know him in mid-Michigan, which is also very conservative? And then you go up north, how well do people know him up there? So he kind of gave, his thoughts, but that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah, like how well do they know him, and how well will they receive him in that new light of, okay, we already knew what you were before, and now you're telling us you're an independent. We have a former mayor of one of the villages here in Chicagoland, Dalton, who moved down to Georgia and just won her primary. Here, she was a Democrat. Just won her primary in Georgia in Fulton County. It's a lot to say about Fulton County. But,
right. Yeah, I'm familiar. Look, I'm from Alabama, so I know what you're talking about.
It. Lots to say about Fulton County, but just won her primary as a Republican, but her introduction to them is as a Republican versus people up here who obviously would wonder, like, wait a minute. People don't just typically just switch sides like that, but there are a lot of people who call into question, all right, maybe there are a lot of issues with the two parties, people within each party that kind of say, have they strayed away from what they were intended to be?
Right. Yeah. So look, it's kind of tough. And so I do a driving series. It's kind of like Coffee and Cars with Comedians, or it's kind of like carpool karaoke. We don't sing, but we do interview newsmakers in Detroit, in Metro Detroit. And so we had former Mayor Duggan on one of our episodes, and we drove around Detroit, and I asked him about his career as Detroit mayor. He touched a little bit on running for governor. He couldn't get into details because then, if he talks about running for governor, we have to interview all these other candidates that were running. And it's still a big, steep field. But he had said, one of the reasons he didn't want to get into the two-party politics is because at the end of the day, people don't want to hear Republicans and Democrats argue over who is going to pick up their trash. They just want the trash to be picked up.
Want solutions.
And he kind of took that route and took a leap. Unfortunately for him, it didn't work. So we'll see what's happening next for him. I know someone at the news conference today asked him, "Hey, would you take a job if Jocelyn Benson won?" And he straight away he said he's not even going to endorse anyone until after the primary, which is again in August. And two of the names that do come to mind are the Secretary of State, but also there's a Sheriff Chris Swanson who has been meeting with people like Jelly Roll and Snoop Dogg, and he's been traveling. And look, even though he's been a bit Hollywood, he does have a strong law enforcement background, and he has been working with getting sex offenders out of the communities. And then he's also worked on programs for people who are in jail. He's helped them get their GED. So he's got some work to do, but he's a strong personality. So we'll see in the next few weeks how former Duggan dropping out of this race, who it helps, and who is in that prime position. We have a big political policy conference next week in up north Michigan. So we'll see if how today's decision impacts politics moving forward here in Michigan. But I got to ask you, how are things in Illinois? I'd say about 10 years ago, I had a great trip to Memorial Day. I spent Memorial Day weekend in Chicago. I'd say one of the best trips of my entire life.
Wonderful. That's what we like to hear. I mean, that's what we love to hear. It's a wonderful place to be year-round, but especially we love to say summertime shine. This is like the kickoff. So
right.
We're looking forward to Memorial Day weekend. I will tell you that one of the hardest things about Memorial Day weekend, as beautiful as our city is, and we want all the visitors to come here. In fact, no knock on Detroit, well, we're number one, for
I get it.
when it comes to visitors in the Condé Nast. So we want people to continue to come here. That means that people have to feel safe. when they come here, right? And so I think that's probably one of the biggest conversations going into Memorial Day weekend, how to make sure people feel safe, and not just feel safe, but actually that they are safe. So we listened to the CPD superintendent, Larry Snelling, yesterday. He was speaking at the City Club Chicago, and he talked on a wide range of different topics, but obviously security is top of mind for many people going into the holiday weekend, especially with the teen takeovers that have been happening. Have you all been experiencing those?
Yes, we've been seeing teen takeovers as well. We had one over the past weekend. We talked to the Detroit police chief, and he was saying that on Saturday there were 60 teenagers, and so that were detained. And curfew offered or given curfew ordinances, and so to give you a little backstory here, we have last summer there was an issue with youth violence, kids staying out too late, and so the police chief and members of city council, they offered this ordinance where they said, hey, let's charge the parents. So they're charging parents a fine of $250 for that first ordinance violation, and then $500 for a second offense. And so it seemed to have paid off in the latter half of the summer, but we're now seeing there was a 14-year-old who was shot.
Oh my goodness.
In downtown Detroit. And I know that Detroit's a smaller city than Chicago, but even just one kid being shot is one too many. So we have a new mayor, Mayor Sheffield. She's Detroit's first female mayor. She's trying to figure out with police how to get around these teen takeovers, but we're seeing them in downtown Detroit. Where are you all seeing them in Chicago?
So actually, I think the bulk of the attention had been downtown and north, obviously in the Loop. For those of us who live around here, the Loop, but for everyone else, that's downtown Chicago. And then like River North, which is just north of the downtown area. That's kind of where the conversation centered last year. Honestly, this year, we've seen them in the Loop. We've seen them in Hyde Park, which is South Side. We've seen them in several different areas this year. So not even just contained to, being downtown. And there's the conversation of, yes, what is the parental responsibility in all of this? And that did come up with the superintendent yesterday. It's come up with the mayor. One of our reporters, Brett Bugansky, asked him point blank, like, you see in Washington, D.C., that Judge Pirro has said that she wants to hold the parents accountable. And so he asked the mayor, Brandon Johnson, here in the city of Chicago, his thoughts on that. It does become kind of nuanced, okay? It does. Listen, these are your children. They are your responsibility, ultimately, right? But if the issue is that parents are working 2-3 jobs, and that they are then not there when their child gets a bus and comes downtown, is the $500 fine going to eradicate what's going on in that home, or is it exacerbating what's happening in the home? Those are large questions to ask. Those are the nuances of what to ask. We've had conversations about curfew. We have a citywide curfew for young people. That's 10 p.m. When it is strictly enforced, say the New Year's Eve weekend, strictly enforced, didn't have many problems, right? But there is a call for a snap curfew. The snap curfew would then would enable the police superintendent to put out an alert to contact the mayor, say, hey, we've got an issue. We know this is happening here or getting ready to happen here, and we need to enact a curfew now. It could be 5 p.m. If you see 50, 60, as you said, teenagers get off, or walk up to a certain area at that time, and you need to do something about it, not waiting for 10 p.m. for something to happen, but to go ahead and call it at 5 p.m. It becomes nuanced, right? Because you want teens to feel like the city is theirs too.
Right.
And you have legalities that start to come into this. And I think that's really one of the things that's held up that discussion from going into actually being implemented, is because are you not opening yourself up to profiling complaints? Are you not opening yourself up to lawsuits about rights that were violated? All of these things become very nuanced along the way.
Yeah, so I do want to ask, does Chicago have one of those, a steep curfew ordinance? Because our curfew is 10 p.m. for kids who are 14 and 15, and then 11 p.m. for 16 and 17. But is it $250, $500 for some of these parents?
Listen, we don't have the fines, and I think that's a growing conversation. We don't have the fines for parents right now, but again, if there's a 10 p.m. curfew, let's say the night of the Christmas tree lighting, we like to do everything big here in Chicago,
right.
But the night of the Christmas tree lighting, thousands of people come downtown for the Christmas tree lighting. People bring their families. It's a wonderful tradition, and everybody should feel comfortable taking part in it, right? So again, curfew is 10 p.m. The tree lighting was ahead of that curfew times. Everyone should feel comfortable coming downtown for this huge moment when the tree, the big tree that is brought downtown actually gets lit. It's a beautiful moment. Everyone's like, oh, this is great. The holidays are here. And then as everyone's kind of leaving and going in their different directions, by right around 9 p.m., things start to happen. Okay, things went downhill fast. We ended up losing a young person's life. People are fully traumatized who just so happen to be, again, in the area after the tree lighting, but it wasn't 10 p.m. yet. So the curfew wouldn't have caught what happened at 9 p.m. as it stands on the books. But had there been possibly a snap curfew, maybe they could have done something in advance of what happened at 9 p.m. These are all maybes, but this is a part of the argument.
No, yeah, and I agree with you. And the main thing about this is, look, we remember when we were kids and we just wanted to be where all the action was. And, you got to give these kids some sort of freedom, because you may remember 6 years ago, these kids weren't allowed to get together like this and do anything. My other question for you, Anita, is with these teen takeovers. We had a conversation with our police chief, and he said of the 60 kids, about a third of them were from out of the suburbs. So how many would you say the superintendent is seeing with kids who are from actual Chicago compared to the suburban areas?
He did not give a detailed description of maybe how many come from the suburbs. He did yesterday talk about the perception of inner city kids, okay? Because
Gotcha.
in the city, you might feel like there are two cities, okay? And the superintendent is quite honestly an excellent person to comment on it, because he grew up in Inglewood. So he knows very well. He is a great example of someone who grew up in Inglewood. Somebody else may have said what you can't do, where you shouldn't go, what statistics may befall you, all of those things. And yet he is the superintendent of Chicago Police. He has come all the way up through the ranks from Inglewood, and now he is overlooking security for the entire city. All right, so an excellent person to comment on it, and he said, quite honestly, it's a disservice to say that young people don't know what they're doing, to say that they aren't conscious of the decisions that they are making. Now, should they make better decisions? Sure, but to say like, well, they don't know what they're doing, actually, that's a disservice. Some of these kids are super smart, and and we can't just label the whole group that comes downtown as misfits, because as teenagers, you brought up like, well, we've all been teenagers before. You want to be where your friends are. The problem is when something starts to happen with these teens over here, then everybody gets looped in. So if we go back to like our upbringing, well, my parents said, be home when the lights come on. You know,
and you were
so
home
that you don't get caught
as
up
soon
in
as those lights turned on.
You know, so that you don't get caught up in that. But if you are where things are happening, we have so many bright young people in the city, and I'm sure Detroit too. If you are where things are happening, it's easy to get caught in the midst of all of that. So it is a subject that I think all big cities are dealing with right now. Not just big cities, but so many different cities are dealing with right now that everyone is kind of looking at each other to see how we're dealing with it in different ways. Let's take a quick 2-minute break, and we're going to bring Brandon right back in. 2 minutes, and we're back.
All right, sounds good. We'll see you.
All right, it is just about 1:23 right now. I want to bring back in our friend from Fox Detroit, Brandon Hudson. Thank you so much for staying with us. We know you've had an extra long day with a lot of big stories that have been happening. We could not let this time go by without a little trash talking about our football teams.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so I think the Bears are gearing up for another winning season. We definitely put in the work last year to have everybody's attention, but the expectation is super high this year. How about there in Detroit?
I will say this, and all respect to the Bears. We won't talk about your coach and how he betrayed our city, but we will say, there was one team in the division that the Bears could not beat last year, and that was the Detroit Lions. So I will say this. Look, I think fans have kind of tempered their expectations. They're kind of divided. They see Chicago and how quickly, the team turned things around and how quickly Caleb Williams developed as a player. It's going to be a very interesting summer because, Detroit has been known not to make big, splashy acquisitions. Mm-hmm. So we will see how that strategy works. We do know that fans have been clamoring for the front office to get a great defensive rusher to go along with our stud in Aiden Hutchinson and just really repair the offensive line because Jared Goff just did not have time. So we'll see how they stack up. Detroit, in my opinion, is looking up at Green Bay. They're looking up at Chicago. So and I get it. They didn't beat Minnesota last year, but we don't know what to expect with them. So as of right now, I'd say, Green Bay and Chicago were up there, but Detroiters, they want to see the Lions compete and win the division.
Understandable. And the thing is, when you were saying that you all were working on your offensive line, I think that one of the big question marks for us will be our defensive line. A lot of people wanted the team to maybe go in a little bit harder during the draft, especially, but could have been even trades, but to address the defensive line here. So we got some really quick pieces. Thieneman, that if you look at people's 40s, you're like, okay, well, we're going to be fast, but can we defend?
Right.
So there's a question there, I think, going into this season. You also mentioned the fact that your quarterback, didn't have time, and I would say maybe just didn't have Ben Johnson.
I mean, both things can be true. Both things can be true. Jared Goff did not have a great offensive line, and he was missing Ben Johnson. We do have a new offensive coordinator in Drew Petzing. He is coming from the Arizona Cardinals. We're still going to see how that works. So I don't know. I mean, look, they've got one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in Jahmyr Gibbs. So he's still a home run talent, and we'll see how that plays out. But it's exciting. And with the Tigers not playing well right now, we are hoping that that football season happens soon.
Well, that depends on what comes from your season,
Right. If these first 3 or 4 games don't turn, the Lions have a very busy first week. They open the season on opening day, and then they play 4 days later. I think they open the season with the Saints on the 10th, I believe, or whatever the first Sunday is, and then they turn around that Thursday. So 4 days later, they play the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. So it's going to be a quick first week, a very tough one. So we'll know a lot by probably the third or fourth game.
Yeah, we have a pretty intense schedule as well. But I will say we're starting off with North Carolina, and we're feeling like maybe that's a win.
I will say this. So we had the draft in 2024. Caleb Williams was picked first overall. I had a chance to interview Caleb Williams before he was drafted along the red carpet. I got to say, and I'm not just saying this because my youngest son's name is Caleb, but I was very impressed with how he held himself, and I'm glad to see that he's successful even though he's playing for a division foe.
He is a sharp young man, and that was very nice of you, very thoughtful of you. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll do this again, okay?
Yeah, we'll do it again some other time. You hop on a Zoom call and we'll talk.
All right, sounds good. Have a great rest of your day.
You too, Anita. Have a great weekend, too.
Same. All right, everybody, it's 1:28. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be back. We're going to get into our next conversation coming up in just a few moments here about mortgage rates and some surging numbers that we're seeing. We'll talk about it. Okay, everybody, it's about 1:31 right now, and we're waiting on a conversation about mortgage rates, but we actually just had State Senator Bill Cunningham from the 18th District who just zoomed in. We weren't sure if we were going to be able to catch him during a busy day down in Springfield, but I believe he's here with us right now. Thank you so much for making time. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And I know you don't have much time. You know,
No.
Just a few moments ago, we were talking about the Bears from the standpoint of the actual game. You've had a lot to say about the Bears when it comes to the stadium conversation. Please update us on where things stand in your opinion.
Well, there are some obstacles in place right now to passing a bill related to the Bears' effort to build a new stadium in Arlington Heights. And there are several of them. I'd say there's three primary obstacles. So one is that opposition from Chicago-based legislators has intensified, and it's largely because the mayor has made the argument that the city has been in consultation with the Bears in recent times about reestablishing an effort to build a stadium on the lakefront. And the mayor has asked Chicago legislators to consider that and to not rush into supporting a measure to move the Bears to Arlington Heights. That's an obstacle to passing a bill because obviously there are a lot of legislators in Springfield who represent the city of Chicago. There are some other obstacles too. The Bears have yet to submit a traffic study for the site at Arlington Heights. That's important because it's needed to address the capital needs. The Bears have asked for something in the neighborhood of $850 million from the state in order to reconfigure roads and bridges in the area around the proposed site. That's difficult to do without a traffic study. The lack of that traffic study has also created some turbulence politically in the northwest suburbs because the mayors that represent towns that border Arlington Heights feel as if they have not been consulted. I would say the third obstacle that we're facing just involves general apprehension from legislators about the payment in lieu of taxes that would allow the local taxing bodies in that area to freeze the current property tax they pay and then make an alternative payment. The uncertainty about what that alternative payment might be and whether or not it would have any effect on other property taxpayers in the district are concern of legislators. And that, as I said, is one of the obstacles we're facing as well.
So with this list of obstacles, the Chicago legislators, obviously the traffic study, the suburban mayors, do you see this kind of getting ironed out by May 31st?
We're going to continue to work on the bill, but obviously more needs to be done. The Bears need to really engage with legislators and make their case if they want to see action by May 31st.
And you said that Mayor Johnson has indicated that he's been in contact with the Bears recently about the possibility of Chicago. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, and I believe the mayor has put out some sort of statement. I don't want to jump in front of that, but there has been some engagement between the Bears and the city within the last several weeks. And as I said, that has breathed life into the mayor's claim that there is still a potential future for the Bears in the city of Chicago. The Bears have said that is not true, that they are primarily focused on Arlington Heights, and then their fallback plan is moving to Hammond, Indiana. And I believe that is the track that the Bears are on. The city does not have a concrete proposal for the lakefront. I think the mayor would like time to develop one. And that's why he's pointing to these conversations that apparently occurred with the Bears in recent weeks as a reason for the process to be slowed down in Springfield.
But is there time to put together a legitimate plan for the city of Chicago? I don't know if this is the red zone that we're sitting in, but the clock is ticking here. So is there time to put together a legitimate plan?
Well, I would say there is very short time to put something together like that by the time the legislature is scheduled to adjourn on May 31st. I think what the mayor has said, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that the city is still working on a plan and they want more time to develop it.
So let me ask you this. You're saying that the Bears are still working on a traffic study, and yes, we've even spoken with the city manager, it was not the mayor, but the city manager of Rolling Meadows, that talked about the fact that there needs to be more done in terms of the traffic studies, and talked about the issues that they had years ago when there was just the racetrack, and now looking at thousands more people coming into their area. So that is a legitimate large scale type of issue that still has not been addressed. I say all that to say, do you think that the Indiana idea was a bargaining chip or the real deal?
Yeah, I think a lot of people believe that it's a bluff. I believe that if we don't pass the bill on May 31st, the Bears are going to say they're going to Indiana. Now, there have been published reports that have questioned the environmental viability of the site in Hammond. I'm not an environmental scientist or a structural engineer. It may be true that is not a viable location, but I think the Bears will focus on that if a bill isn't passed here by May 31st. Maybe ultimately they will find that site is not conducive to the construction of a stadium, but I believe they will pursue it if we don't pass a bill by May 31st.
Which site seems most viable to you? Chicago, Arlington Heights, or Indiana?
Well, the Bears own the property in Arlington Heights. They owned that land free and clear. So that is probably the path of least resistance if they're able to pass their bill for their tax break here in Springfield by May 31st.
Mm-hmm. And how do you address the concerns with the mega projects bill from those who are raising their hands, what some may feel is at the last minute, kind of possibly holding it up?
There are a number of suggestions out there, everything from shrinking the size and scope of the proposal. The proposal that is on the table right now would not only apply to the Bears. It's an open-ended proposal that other companies could utilize in order to build a large economic development project. Could be a factory, a manufacturing plant of some sort. So anyone could avail themselves of this pilot mechanism if their development is of a certain size, generates enough economic activity. So, we could take a look at that and see if the scope of that could be narrowed. That's something that has been proposed and is something we're working through.
Okay. State Senator Bill Cunningham, we thank you so much for your time today.
No problem. My pleasure.
Please circle back as you get more information, because we're all looking for an answer very soon.
Sure thing. Take care.
All right. Take care. Have a good holiday weekend. It's just about 1:40, everyone. Let's talk about the mortgage rates. We know a lot of people, spring and the summertime months are when a lot of people start doing their home shopping, kind of getting out there, maybe testing the waters to see what you can afford or what even is on the market. We have Stephen Cates, Bankrate financial analyst, who's here with us now as we're, still kind of maybe a lot of people would be hesitant with the implications of the Iran war when it comes to mortgage rates. Thank you so much for being here with us.
My pleasure.
So as of this week, we're seeing that the average rate on the 30-year fixed loan rose 7 basis points. Talk a little bit more about that. That's not the direction we'd like to go.
It's not the direction we like to go. I think what people may respond to is that we're seeing 30-year mortgage rates at 6.6% on average. That is at the same rate, the highest since August of last year. So we have done a tremendous, sort of round trip here, going from the last 6-7 months, mortgage rates that really haven't budged in quite a while. We got as low as just under 6% in February, and we've moved up and down a little bit, but ultimately this has been a direction just up. And that's putting a damper on an already very weak spring housing market.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you next. I mean, when people hear percentage rates, let's say someone is a first-time home buyer, okay, and they're just seeing 6.75. What does that actually mean to them?
Well, what it means is that, the house that they are going to buy, they have to evaluate what that carrying cost of the mortgage is going to be. So not just a down payment. We know that home prices have risen. In some cases, they've risen as high as 30 or 50% compared to what they were at the beginning of 2020. And we're seeing very different environments across the country in terms of the housing markets. We're back to a real estate market that is very hyper local. What you see in Florida is different than Texas, California, Illinois, Massachusetts. They are deviating in a way that they hadn't been only a few years ago. But for people to actually go and buy, yes, maybe you have the down payment for that, but can you afford to pay that monthly payment? And that's rising. What this means is that, payments comparing 6% to 6.6%, you're looking at potentially a couple $100 extra per month. So that's maybe $2,000, almost $2,500 per year that you might be paying more than you would have been only a few months ago. That might break people's budgets. That might mean that they have to look at less expensive homes, or they have to delay and wait until we see lower rates. It's really a circumstance where, for people coming into 2026 thinking this is their moment, we have rates that are now much lower, almost a full percent lower than they were last year. We've retraced to the point where we barely have lower rates than we did last year.
So if someone were saying, do I jump in and figure it out? Do I wait on the sidelines and see if it goes back in the opposite direction? What are your thoughts?
Well, most people are sitting on the sidelines. Buyers are really not making much of an effort to come out and see a lot of the homes that are for sale. And I think part of that is because sellers have not yet recognized, or because of the home equity they have, don't need to recognize, that the prices that they remember from 2022 and 2023, those peak prices, when things were still hot, those aren't the prices you can sell a home for today. If you want to sell your home, you got to price it to move. And that's going to be, for many sellers, a lot lower than what they think it could be worth, or what they remember it was worth only a couple of years ago. So buyers are sitting on the sidelines. But my advice is always, you should buy when you know you can afford it. If you find a home that you love and it makes sense financially, waiting for a better rate might mean that you could lose that home, or you're going to be looking for a lot longer. So if you find a home that you can afford and it's one that works for you, there's no reason to wait. If you're not there yet, doing everything you can to improve your credit score and your eligibility for a mortgage is going to do more to help you lower your mortgage rate than waiting around for the market to do the work for you.
That is a really good perspective on that. And in that vein, what are some of the things that people should do? A credit score, what are some of the things, if you're trying to put together your best package, your best self to present, when the time is right, what are more of the things that people should be doing while they wait?
Well, the very basics are starting to get all your documentation together. So be organized. If you don't know, or if you don't have, recent statements for your bank, for income, for, an understanding of what your financial situation is, figure that out, because the bank is going to ask about it. If you have lingering credit card debt or other debts, can you clean that up before you want to go and apply for a mortgage? Can you get your credit score, improved in some way through, more payments that are consistent? But figure out whatever those weak points are. Do you have too little credit? Could you lower the utilization rate on a monthly basis? Are you using too much of the available credit? And could you be a little bit more diligent with how you manage those things? Whatever that's going to be, do that now. Do that before you want to apply. You don't want to be sitting on a bank website waiting to apply and wondering, well, is my credit ready? You should have known that and thought about that months ahead of time. So for people who are sitting on the sidelines, waiting for a moment, waiting for a position where they feel like, okay, rates are right for me and I'm ready to jump in, the best way you can prepare for that and to get that good rate when you want it is to get your credit and your eligibility in order, be organized, be prepared to put together a really quality lending application file, and that's going to make your life a lot easier.
Excellent advice. I'm only going to add, don't hop in with these Memorial Day weekend prices for cars and say, well, I don't know if I can get a house, but let me get a car right now. A major purchase would not be the right thing.
Yeah, now's not the time to YOLO your money into something else, like an appreciating asset or a car.
Yeah.
Cars are expensive. You don't need that extra debt. And certainly if you are buying a car, don't get an 84-month loan.
There's that. Yeah. Thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend. We always appreciate having you on the show.
Have a good day.
Same to you. 1:46, everyone. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be back. Okay, welcome back, everyone. 1:48 right now. Before we get into our next discussion, I want to just take a pause here, as many in the city are. The visitation for Firefighter Stephen Decker has, I believe it starts at 2 p.m., but you can see Old Glory unfurled there in front of the funeral home by the ladder, and the response will be, I'm sure, quite large over the next few hours. I believe it's from 2 to 8 p.m. that the visitation will be taking place. His services are tomorrow, beginning at 10 a.m. And if you are unfamiliar with that story, we lost firefighter Stephen Decker during a training exercise. He had some type of medical episode, I believe, and we lost him. 30 years on the department, and this is a department that just recently went through all of these same proceedings for the life of firefighter EMT Altman in April. So it's a lot on the first responder communities, more specifically for our firefighters here in the city, and it's only right for us to pause, take a moment, have them in our thoughts and our prayers as they all get ready to say goodbye to yet another member of their family. We'll be carrying both the visitation will pop back in, and then also the services. But we do want to proceed on to our next conversation here, because it gets back to our youth and a unique challenge, if you will, for some student athletes in our state. You know, when you are a student athlete in high school, you have so many different things. If you really want to take what you were crafting, the skills you were crafting up a notch, you're already thinking about college. Maybe some folks are thinking about the pros, all of those things. And so you kind of want to be in the stands or on the field or however close you can be to whatever that next step may be for you. But there is a huge scheduling conflict between the IHSA girls lacrosse games in the NCAA Final Four. I have Natalie Lesh, a girls lacrosse player for Evanston Township High School, who's joining me now to tell me more about what's going on. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Tell me how you got into lacrosse first and foremost.
I've been into lacrosse my entire life. Both my parents played in college. My mom has been coaching since I was born, and she's still coaching now. And it's just been a huge part of my life. I live in Evanston, so I watch Northwestern games all the time. I've been a big fan of them for my entire life, too. And it's just been a big part of my life.
Have you ever been to, one of the college games, or more specifically to like an NCAA Final Four? Have you ever been to go watch?
Yeah, I watched a ton of games. I went to the Final Four 2 different times in Baltimore, and it was just a really amazing experience. And I was really excited that it was going to be coming to the Midwest and in my backyard, basically, and getting to watch that without having to go all the way out east.
Yeah, I mean, having it right there and not having to make a trip just seems like the perfect fit. So tell me when you found out about the scheduling conflict here.
We found out earlier this week that it was confirmed. We were trying to get the game. Our game is Friday, and it's the same time as the second Final Four game. And we were trying to get it moved to Thursday or any other day, and they just were like, no, it's not possible to move it. And so ever since then, we've been trying everything we can to get it moved.
And what does that include? I mean, I see a petition here.
Yeah, we've been calling different schools, trying to figure out if any other school can host it. We made a petition that got close to 500 signatures of from people all over the state, because so many teams are scheduled to play during this Final Four, and that's gonna not allow them to watch these games. And it's close to 1,000 people that are not going to be able to go because they're playing, and that doesn't include their parents who's going to watch them, their coaches. And it's just a huge loss to the game, because the Final Four is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and that we're not able to go because of scheduling is just really hard for us.
Mm-hmm. What if people say, it's just a game? What would you say to them?
I mean, this is the first time in NCAA history that it's being hosted in the Midwest, and it's a huge moment in the growth of the game, and showing that lacrosse is alive in the Midwest and that it's something that's growing. Being able to be at that game just shows how important it is to people that don't live on the East Coast, and it's really just a once in a lifetime experience.
Mm-hmm. And what does it mean to you to see how people have banded together in this effort to try to work something out?
I think it's really inspiring how it has happened. All these schools of different teams that are technically our opponents, and that we're not really buddy with, because we're trying to play them to make it to state. We're all coming together for the same cause, because we all want to be there and be there to support women's lacrosse.
Have you heard anything about, whether you all's passion for this is making a difference, and maybe there's a conversation happening somewhere that something could happen?
I mean, I think originally we were really hopeful, but as time is moving on, it's getting closer and closer, and there's not very much that we can do anymore. And it just kind of sucks, because we feel unheard and unsupported, and almost as if people aren't trying to make the difference, and it just really is upsetting.
Well, that's hard to hear because I can hear so much joy in your voice when you talk about lacrosse as a game and how you came into it and your love of it. I can hear that in your voice, and I can also hear the disappointment in the thought that this scheduling won't work out. But can I tell you how proud I am of you all for fighting for what you want? I think that's a huge life lesson too, to fight for what you believe in. So those are like off the field lessons that you're learning too, and I think that this is a wonderful thing that you're speaking up for it as well. You're voicing your concerns. Those types of things take you a long way. What do you hope is next for you?
I am just really excited about I just graduated from ETHS.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm going to be playing lacrosse at Bates College in
You
the
go,
fall.
girl. Love to hear it. Again, so proud of you. We look forward to continuing to see you grow in the game and in life as well. You make us proud.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
And let us know if anything changes with this, okay?
I will.
Okay, all right. It's a 1:57, everyone. I mean, that is super important that young people feel comfortable to voice their concerns about things they see in society and feel aren't right. Whether this changes or not, they are learning some very valuable lessons that will go a very long way. We'll see. We will let everybody know if their efforts are effective in actually getting this change. It would be a shame that, these young people who are so close to actually playing in college don't get to sit there. But something tells me that Natalie may be playing in an NCAA Final Four. She may actually be the athlete in an NCAA Final Four someday. So let's take a quick break, 2 minutes, and we'll be back. We'll be ready to set you up for what to expect in our 2 o'clock hour. Welcome back, everyone. 2 o'clock. We're now in our second hour here on Chicago Live for the day. Plenty to get to in this next hour ahead. We're going to talk about the Chicago rent report. Just moments ago, we were speaking with Bankrate, a financial analyst with Bankrate, about the mortgage rates. But there's plenty of complaints, plenty to talk about when it comes to rent in the city of Chicago. All big cities but we've got some work to do here in the city of Chicago, and we're going to look over that report and analysis as well, coming up around 2:45. So look out for that. We'll have some key takeaways for renters here in the city of Chicago. Important information you don't want to miss if you're not in the fight for buying a new home, as we talked about with those mortgage rates skyrocketing. There's some really important information you need to know, even if you're going to be renting in the area as well. Oh my goodness, at 2:30, Tia Ewing is going to be up here to give us a preview of her special report that's airing later today. And even if you didn't see the pictures, and I do believe we're going to show at least a few pictures for the preview, even if you didn't see the pictures, let me just paint a picture of someone who says they are a dentist doing work in people's mouths and how wrong that could go. Okay, I'll leave it there. She's going to be up here to give us more details. Hopefully we'll have some pictures too, so you can see how horribly wrong things have gone for some folks out there. Also, we're going to talk about preserving some homes in Glencoe. That's coming up as well. Glencoe considering some incentives to save old homes. But first, we're starting out with a Chicago activist and businessman who is answering the call. We spoke with our sister station in Detroit just in our first hour about teen takeovers or teen trends, however you want to call them, and the fact that so many different cities are dealing with the trends, and each city is kind of thinking of different ways to deal with them. Superintendent Snelling just yesterday said, hey, everybody has to be involved in a solution here, and so Early Walker said, I've got something. In fact, I'm going to bring back something because it's not the first time he's done it. Thank you so much for being here to talk about this, the parent text alert line that I think, was pretty effective the first go round. Would you say the same?
Absolutely. And as always, thank you so much for having me. So a couple of years back, we started a teen text line, and I decided to bring it back as we're seeing an uptick in these teen trends starting to kick off again. And so hoping that it's going to be as effective as it was when we launched it a couple of years ago.
What do adults in the area say to you about the efforts that you've been making? I mean, you had one possible solution, and it seemed like it was very effective as well in doing parent takeovers. What do adults in the area say to you about the efforts that you've been making?
I think it's an all hands on deck approach, right? As I always say, it used to be, a community, a village approach, right? And we have to get back to that mind frame. I think that, we've gotten away from the fact that, although these are not my kids per se causing havoc, if you will, these are somebody else's kids, right? And they are my kids because, they're a part of the community. And so people are pleased. People are excited, that there are several different initiatives that are, taking place, and hopeful. I think right now at this point, people just want a solution. They want to be able to enjoy the summer. They want to be able to go outside, without having to worry about all chaos breaking loose.
Tell us about the timing of why you are reactivating this going into this weekend specifically.
Well, of course, more specifically, I mean, we're talking about Memorial Day weekend, right? Which, of course, it's going to be hot out. Some kids are going to be out of school. Most kids will be out of school, I should say. And, so this is a, high alert time, specifically for teen trends, right? And so, upon watching the news, watching social media, I just say, you know what, let me go ahead and kick this back off now. I think this is more suitable for timing right now, specifically because we're going into a holiday where we've been known to see upticks in, not just gun violence and not just violence in the community, but also teen trends.
Yeah. What goes through your mind when you do see the videos of the teen trends, whether it's somewhere here in Chicagoland or elsewhere?
It's hurtful, right? I mean, I'm looking at our kids, that are lost, confused, and it's time out for the nonsense. Honestly, I think that Superintendent Snelling's message yesterday was very stern, very on point, especially at a time like this. I think that we have to all come together as a community, and we have to say enough is enough. When you look at other major cities, Washington, D.C. specifically, you see that they're cracking down. Atlanta has been cracking down, right? And so it's time for Chicago to crack down. And so this is just an added effort, from an alert standpoint of trying to get the messaging out. But it doesn't stop here. We have to stop penalizing. We have to stop punishing, and then also, adding to the caveat, like I always say, finding other things for these kids to do, because, I do know all of these kids are not looking for trouble. Right. They're all not looking for bad times. And this is even coming from conversations of me talking to some of the kids. But the problem is you've got the bad apples in the group that kick things off. And before you know it, it gets out of hand. And now we're not just talking about meetups, right? If it was just meetups with large gatherings of kids, that would be one thing. We're talking about violence. We're talking about weapons. We're talking about people getting shot. We're talking about people getting hurt. And so that's where it becomes a larger issue. And I mean, I always say this, it's not the police department's job to be policing our kids. And unfortunately, these resources are being tied up. I mean, they have to, add manpower to their staff, and we could be using that, to solve some crimes and do, other things that they're supposed to be doing, right? But unfortunately, they have to deal with these issues because they don't want anybody to get harmed. They don't want anybody vandalized. Businesses are getting, interrupted because of this as well. And so it has caused a huge issue. And I'm glad you pointed out earlier, it's not just a local issue, it's become a national issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we've seen it time and time again. You mentioned Washington, D.C. Janine Pirro threw out the idea, and in fact, when we were speaking with our sister station, even he said there in Detroit that when they do have kids that are caught in teen trends and there's like a curfew violation, there's a $250 penalty for the parents. First time, second time is $500. What are your thoughts on those types of penalties for the parents?
I'm in 100% agreement. I think that if you don't know where your kid is, that's a problem in itself. I think that it's time out for the passive, approach to this. I think that at this point now, if you don't know where your kids are, this is going to make sure you are aware of where your kids are. And I think that, that's something that should be adopted here. I think it's time to, lay the law down. It's time to stop with the passiveness, because unfortunately we've got a lot of parents that don't even know where their kids are. Hence the even reasoning of me starting this parent text alert line, right? Because what I found is that a lot of these parents don't even know what's going on. I mean, of course, let's be real. We were kids before, right? So kids are not telling the truth. They're not saying, hey, mom, I'm going to, tear up downtown. They're telling them, hey, I'm going to, practice at one of my friends' house, or we're going to go do homework, or whatever the case is. Same excuses we used to make, but again, different circumstances, because we're dealing with a totally different animal of people, or kids, I should say, that, are, I mean, they are privy to things that we weren't privy to. They're privy to weapons. They're privy to guns. They're privy to, various different things. I mean, they have a huge or way bigger social media following. I mean, heck, in our age, we had MySpace, right? It wasn't nowhere near the capacity that it is now. And so because we're dealing with different situations, we have to treat this, in different measures as well.
Yeah, that was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about next, because I mean, growing up, I didn't have social media. That is a huge differentiation between kids of today and how many kids can end up showing up for something versus kids of yesteryear that, I mean, maybe you could call a friend or two, but like we're not getting thousands of kids together on the dot.
Yeah. No, when you look at these videos, it's disturbing. I mean, I've seen the comments. I mean, some of these people are saying, like, what is, it's like parade mentality. I mean, you're talking about mobs and mobs of kids who are showing up. I mean, and we're not talking about, to your point, 25 kids, 30 kids, right? We're talking about hundreds and hundreds, and eventually it turns into thousands of kids that are showing up in one place. How do we, we don't even have the manpower for that. We don't even have the staff nor the police officers for that. And so, doing things like the teen trend alert, doing things like cracking down from a curfew standpoint, doing things like penalizing the parents, it's going to take all of this if we want to try to get some type of a tackle on this.
Mm-hmm. What do you say to, those who would call out, and we were talking about earlier, the nuances of these debates, as in like with the SNAP curfew? Do you open yourself up to legal issues as a city, or do you open yourself up to complaints of profiling? If you are just seeing a bunch of kids, they haven't necessarily caused trouble yet, and you're calling in a curfew.
They get the preventative measures. I think that, again, it goes back to when I was a kid, right? When I was a kid, when the street lights came on, I had to be in the house. Now we're seeing kids that are out at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. You got to remember what time we're talking here. We're not talking about 10 p.m., 11 p.m. You know, we're not talking about midnight. We're talking 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., where a lot of these issues are kicking off. That's insane. That's unheard of. When we're talking about teens, kids, we're talking about 13-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds. How the heck are you outside at that time of the night? How are you roaming the streets by yourself unsupervised? Which, if you look at it from a broader spectrum, technically, I feel like it's helping these kids by putting these stricter laws in place and putting these curfews in place, because it keeps them out of harm's way. Who knows what the heck is going to happen, right? You know, and I mean, bad things happen at night, right? Especially when you're not supervised, when you don't have a parent or an adult that's around. So me personally, I think that is a path forward that we should approach, because it actually can potentially keep a kid, you know, or a child from getting harmed.
Some of it is protecting, you know, if you can't protect yourself, somebody else protecting you, which kind of is the onus on adults when you're dealing with young people, protecting them.
Yep.
On a final note, how does the text alert work? If somebody is hearing this right now and they're like, oh, I need that, I want to be a part of that, what do they need to do? How does this work?
So there's a number, and I have not memorized it. Hopefully you guys have it in studio.
Yeah.
There's a number that they can text. They actually text teen alert, one word, to the number, and I'll send it to you if you guys don't have it. And essentially they'll get a welcome response from us, basically saying, welcome, this is the, you know, teen text alert line. You know, stay tuned for further updates. And then basically, as we are getting information from CPD, shout out to Superintendent Snelling, Director Brooks, you know, and then also just even people from social media, several parents, several people in the community who inbox. They send us inboxes, they send us, you know, different things that we are alerted of, and essentially, basically, you know, keeping us abreast of what's going on in the community. And then we'll basically send out a text alert, you know, okay, we broke up. Okay, there we go. Last time I checked, we were at over 6,000
wow.
Parents that had signed up for this. And so it tells me that, you know, parents want to be notified, they want to be involved, they want to know what's going on. So again, you know, hopefully this catches on at a larger base. I mean, like I said, we were at like 6,000 plus parents and individuals. You know, it doesn't have to be a parent, right? I mean, basically this is a alert mechanism for us to say, do you know where your kids are? And if you don't know where your kids are, here's an instance that might be taking place, you know, and if your kid is in this vicinity, they're probably going to be in harm's way.
Yeah. Thank you so much for what you do. We did put that number there on the screen, everybody. Text teen alert, one word, as early said, to 833-671-2367. Again, that's 833-671-2367. We so appreciate what you do here in the city of Chicago and beyond. Thank you for joining us here on the show to talk a little bit about what is going on and how you are stepping up to be a part of the solution. We appreciate you.
Thank you, as always. It was a pleasure, Anita. Thank you.
Take care. Everybody, it's 2:14. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be back. Welcome back to 16 right now, and up for consideration by the Glencoe board at tonight's meeting is a package of incentives, including allowing home additions to cover more of a site than new construction can, and rebates on permit fees. So we're going to talk about saving old homes now with Peter Van Bechen, chairman of the Preservation Commission, and Adam Hall, assistant village manager for the village of Glencoe. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anita.
Tell me how we got to this point. Well, what was the conversation about saving these homes?
Glencoe's been losing homes since the village started tracking that back in 1980. And as of today, given the entire housing stock, about almost 30% have been replaced since 1980. And so not every home is seen as extremely valuable, but many are historically valuable. And so what we've been working on in the commission for some time now is to figure out some ways to incentivize homeowners to keep their home and try to educate everyone to see the value in the heritage that Glencoe has.
Mm-hmm. And Adam, I'm seeing that you all maybe have seen this done nearby.
Yeah, working with the commission, we've taken a look at like the village of Hinsdale, for example, who has done something similar, and really tried to right size a similar program for Glencoe to make sure that, like Peter said, we are encouraging property owners that live in landmarked homes to stay in their home and have the home be adjusted for their lifestyle now versus when the home was originally constructed. So there's allowances for greater floor area ratio, as well as setbacks if they are a landmarked property, to really allow them to provide additions that are thoughtful to their home.
What were some of the things that Hinsdale ran into as obstacles that you all can learn from to do it better in Glencoe?
Sure. In speaking with the staff there, I think what they ran into there was education of their residents about these homes and about these programs. Peter and I have talked that this is the first step in a range of education that we're going to have to do with the community. And in fact, we're having a series of lectures at the library, at the Glencoe Public Library, about preservation and homes in Glencoe over the next couple months, and really seeking to strive to educate the community on landmarks and these new programs that are under consideration tonight, if they are approved, would be then available for property owners to utilize.
And so this would be a pilot program. How long and what would be the full scope of it?
Yes, that's right. It's about a 3-year program. And the whole point there is that it is not codified forever, but it allows some future flexibility to augment it or modify it. It boils down to some basic approaches that most of it is incentive based. And so writing into the zoning code a little more flexibility for landmark homeowners, both in setbacks and in the size of the home. And then in terms of economic incentives, currently Glencoe has 2 layers of landmark status. One is certified, and that one is eligible to apply to the state of Illinois for the property tax assessment freeze program. And the second level in Glencoe is called honorary, and currently there are no economic incentives really for the honorary level. And so this program is trying to give some encouragement to both the certified and the honorary, And so there's an idea of rebating permit fees. So when you do a large project, not only does that cost a lot of money, but there's a fairly significant permit fee attached to that. And so what this program does is to say, okay, if it is a historic property and the value is more than a small project, then you can apply to have a permit fee rebate. Adam remembers the details better than I do, exactly the numbers, but in concept, it is trying to say, okay, you can take your historic home, and if you would like to build a great room on the back, for example, where you can have a large family room and so on, and that whole concept didn't even exist 100 years ago, we're trying to make a pathway forward for those homeowners to say, okay, we can both live in a historic home, but we can also enjoy the benefits of the technologies and the lifestyles of today.
So what message do you think this sends to potential builders?
I think, it doesn't, I would say that doesn't send a message in particular. I think what we're attempting to encourage is remodels and renovations for landmarked properties. We understand that there is construction in town, new and remodel construction. And so we're attempting to make a pathway, as Peter said earlier, a pathway for homeowners of landmarked homes, a pathway for them to live in a lifestyle of today. And that's kind of the purpose of these incentives, is to allow them to make adjustments to their home and really stay in their home as long as they want to, because they're able to make these types of adjustments with some modest support from the village.
You have to have a pretty special village to take this approach, to say renovate rather than tear down. Peter, talk a little bit about that. What makes homes in Glencoe so special?
Thank you for that great question. I think it is a sense of place. That Glencoe is in the Chicagoland region is a relatively small community. There are approximately 3,000 homes, and so there's not that many. And when you walk down the street, your sense of place is really formed by what are you walking past on a daily basis. And Glencoe, I think, is really awesome because you can walk. It's a very short walk from almost anywhere in the village to the business center, what we call Uptown. And so if you want to get to the library or the village hall or the pharmacy, it's a short walk. Now, along that walk, you can pass houses that are 120 years old. You can pass houses that are 2 years old. And all of that is a very rich experience that I think is very valued by this community. Just yesterday, the second graders had, as part of their annual curriculum, a field trip where they had the opportunity to experience different aspects of the built environment. And so they had a tour of the business area. Then they had a visit to a Victorian style house and a visit to a Frank Lloyd Wright designed house. Oh. And so in this village, I think architecture and the sense of place is highly valued by our residents.
Mm-hmm. And Adam, do you find that, I mean, I know you all are getting ready to meet tonight to talk about it, but I'm sure in this day and age, some people have caught wind that this was, going to be happening at the meeting and probably have already voiced their opinions on it. So do you find that there are a lot of people, or increasing number of people who want to go full new versus those who would rather renovate?
I mean, I don't necessarily know if they're full new versus is renovation. We have taken public comment on this as part of our public hearings for the zoning process. The public comments that we received at the zoning hearing were very positive. We did engage in a series of conversations with our village board about this process that were all publicly available, and we didn't hear very many negative comments about some of these processes. And I think the village board, working closely with the Preservation Commission over the past year, have really provided a nuanced view of this issue, and is willing to pilot this through this pilot program. And so I think we're in a good spot, and I think we'll see what happens tonight. Obviously, I can't presuppose a decision, but I think we're in a good spot for this type of package of incentives and making them available to the public.
Well, great chatting with you both about it. Can't wait to actually find out the decision tonight. And thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show to talk about a beautiful community.
Thank you, Anita. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much.
Y'all take care.
Okay, bye now.
All right. 2:27, and we're getting ready for our conversation. We were just talking about homeowners, types of issues and concerns, and ways to do things with the home that you own. Those are things that you have to keep in mind too. When it comes to home ownership, it's so much more than just getting the home. Like sometimes I think people get caught up in just the idea of just getting the home, but home ownership comes with a lot of different responsibilities, and so it's good to have that conversation about some of the other things that you do have to consider over time. Next up, we're going to talk about renters. We're going to go over some key takeaways in a new report for renters in Chicago. So stay with us. We're back with that in 2 minutes. Oh, I missed that. Was 2:45. Okay, welcome back everyone. 2:31, and you can see here we have the setup for Tia Ewing. We're waiting on her. She should be here any minute so that we can get a preview of her special that's airing tonight that I think everyone needs to see. You need to know so you can avoid people who say they are one thing but don't have the credentials for that one thing, say they can provide a service for said price, may seem, enticing because of said price, but keep in mind, if they don't have certification for said procedure, that price really is null and void, because you're going to have to pay eons more to correct whatever the work is that they do on you. We have seen it so many times before for many different procedures, and the botched issues have come up in the news time and time again. But the story that she has for this evening is one that you really need to hear about, something that was happening here in our area. So she'll be up soon. We're also waiting on that conversation about the Chicago rent report. That's another really important topic that we want to make sure everybody sees, where Chicago rent stands today, where we're heading, where we've been. We're going to go over it all, some analysis over the latest report that just came out here. So we want to make sure when we have a lot of conversations about home ownership, we're not leaving out the folks who say, hey, the home ownership isn't for me, I'm renting, and there are issues here too. We want to be able to cover those as well. So we're going to get into both of those things coming up shortly. Again, just as soon as Tia gets up here, we'll go to her. But while we're waiting, we have Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy, who is testifying on Capitol Hill. Let's listen into a bit of this.
Controllers who are of the age where they can retire, they're the most experienced controllers that we have. And I want them to stay. So we've offered them a 20% upfront cash bonus for every year they'll stay. I mean, again, new controllers are great, but they got to get trained up. If you have a controller that you already have the expertise, we don't want to lose them. And I've had, I think, at least 600 controllers have taken us up on that. And so we're trying to think of it through every different lens of keeping more in, and happy to work with you on the school that could bring more kids from Harlem into air traffic control.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, local hiring, our aspirations as members of Congress and representing our districts is that some of these projects like Gateway, 2nd Avenue Subway, my district, and of course, Penn Station, which was announced this week, that we have local hiring, that people from our communities, our constituencies get those opportunities. How are you guys committed to local hiring?
I got to look at the policies and the NOFOs and the proposals. I think it's hard for a community when, to your point, you bring in an outside workforce from some far out place, instead of not just giving jobs, but giving training to people in your community where the projects happen. I think that's always best. But the requirement on local hiring, I'm not sure that I have that, but I would be happy to talk to you about it, and maybe we can modify how we do the NOFOs. I'd love to discuss it with you,
because I think many of these projects, in my case, 2nd Avenue Subway, we don't want it just to be 3 subway stops.
Okay, so we heard a few moments of him in this testimony here, most especially as he was talking about how they're trying to turn around the issues that they have with air traffic controllers. So many that are retiring, not as many people that are coming in, and trying to make up that gap, to fill in that gap there. He was asked another question about just hiring in general, but they're going to continue on with that. We have Tia Ewing here, so we definitely want to talk to her about what is going on with this story for tonight.
I have been working on this story since December.
Wow.
So I'm happy that it will air tonight. Really what it shows is, I think the big question here is, how can someone get away with this type of egregious behavior for so long? And unfortunately, there are victims left behind. There's a local dentist that is no longer a dentist, but at the time was practicing and leaving people with no teeth at all. He specialized in the practice of doing full dental implants. And we got an email. It all started with an email that I received. And when I opened up the picture, I thought, there's no way this is real, because the individual that emailed it had nails sticking out of the gums. And so once we started digging, we realized that this was not just an isolated incident. This involved a lot of people. Unfortunately, a lot of people didn't want to talk because for some people, this is embarrassing to be left, you know, with no teeth at all. So a lot of people decided that they didn't want to talk, but we did get 2 of the victims to speak with us about this. And I mean, when you look at the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation, you look at all of the violations that this particular dentist got starting in 2012 up until now, it brings up so many questions of how were you able to still practice and, you know, be a thriving, profitable dentist. And these weren't cheap procedures. You know, people were spending $40,000 for a full mouth replacement of their teeth. And in one case, we talked to a young lady. This was not a situation where, you know, people didn't take care of their teeth or anything like that. These were people that had serious situations happen. Our first victim that will be in our story was a domestic violence victim. So her teeth were punched out.
And she had already been through so much.
And also a cancer survivor.
Wow.
And so then to go through this process is just absolutely egregious. So here was the big question. Where was this dentist? Because everyone that came to us with their story, no matter if they went on TV or not, said, I went to the office, it was shut down, I went looking for him. And so we started, you know, following all of these different trails of where he could be. And in some cases, some of the offices that he claimed that he was working at, they were offices, some of them dentist offices, some of them medical practices that had never heard his name before. So we were down this rabbit hole of, literally a rabbit hole, because it was like we would hear he's here, then we hear, oh, he's over there, and we go check all of those places out. And then we got a tip one day. Literally, I'm driving to work. I have no idea whose number this is, still to this day. Gave me a tip, go here. And we went there that day, and that's when we had this chance encounter. A person came to the door. Me being who I am, I went inside that door, and that's when the encounter happened. They threatened to call the police, but eventually this dentist did, I can't call him a dentist anymore, former dentist, did decide to speak with us. And what's really interesting about him is that he's now under investigation yet again because there are allegations that he is still practicing in some form. Now he's saying that he's not guilty of this. This is currently working itself through the court process, but there are videos of him to this day on social media where he is saying, if you are a dentist, come to me. These are my fees. I will train you. And so the question now is that legal? Is that within his legal right to do? He has the education. He does not have the license in the state of Illinois. Is that allowed? And so we delve into all of that. As recent as this week, we were talking with the state about these videos because they were brought to our attention that he's still offering up his services to help other dentists. And so, you know, it's really an egregious story, and
wait, I've got to
it's
ask
horrible.
You. So
it
if
really
he's
is.
posting videos, does he turn off the comments? Because I would think
no,
the people who
people
come
are in
to
the
you
comments.
would be in the comments.
People have been in the comments. He deletes the comments. We have noticed that. In fact, that was how. So initially, when I tried to get in contact with him, I immediately tried to set up a traditional interview. So I emailed him. I actually commented under one of his videos where he's offering these services, and he emailed and said, sure, I'll do an interview. So we thought, oh, the day is coming. He'll be here. Never shows up, decides he's not going to do the interview. And then that's when we had, you know, this hide and seek, you know, where's Waldo situation where we were looking for him all over. We went from, you know, the western suburbs all the way to the North Shore looking for him, and eventually we found him.
And when you did find him, did he say, "This is where I've been all along"?
No. What he said was, it's interesting, you know, when people are caught red-handed, sometimes they blame everybody else. And it was a lot of blaming. There's also a lawsuit against him and some other doctors, dentists in part of his practice, but doctors too, for a patient's death. And a lot of it, he couldn't talk about that, but a lot of it was, you know, I didn't have the right people working with me for the size of my practice. I'm going to be a rideshare driver. I have nothing.
What?
So a lot of it was no real ownership of some of the things that if you are the lead in this office, you should know is going on.
Well, and
you're doing the work. You should know what's going on.
Exactly. I was going to say, he's not saying everybody else did the work but him.
He's not saying that.
Yeah.
He's also saying that in part, the reason why he acknowledged that some of his patients are left in some cases mutilated or disfigured. And in part, he's saying that's because his license was snatched. So he would have gotten to them had he had his license. He also said that, for example, he can't send them to practice B over here as a referral because he no longer has access to those records. So there are a lot of questions here. I think we answered, if I had to, be honest here, I think we answered maybe 90% of those questions. And the other 10%, I think, will remain unknown. I think we have to wait and see what happens with this most recent case of him, still being accused of practicing. But I think we answered at least 90% of the questions that I had when I first opened that email. And so I'm at least satisfied with that. But a lot of these people are left without any money. $40,000, that's not a little money. And our one victim that was the domestic violence victim had to, I don't want to get into her financial business, but she had to do a lot of extra things to put herself in more financial strain to get her mouth fixed by somebody else. So it is now fixed. When we did the story, it was not fixed, but it is now fixed. And then our second victim in our story was threatened by this doctor that he needed to pay an additional $10,000 after paying close to $30,000. And when he told the dentist that, hey, I'm going to the state on you, I'm going to the attorney general on you, that is when he finished his work. So they're now in a court situation too, but because he's alleging it was a shakedown.
These lawsuits, the cases,
it's a lot of
a death. Is everything civil or are there criminal charges?
Everything is civil so far. And I think that's part of probably the issues here because it's really difficult and really that's a story for another day that we could do. It's really difficult to pin criminal charges in cases like this because what is the criminality is what we found also in this is that oftentimes, a lot of people don't want to come forward by the time they do. Some people have replaced their teeth, et cetera. So then the question is, what is the criminal aspect of it? The death, that situation could have potentially been criminal, but right now that's a civil case.
Wow.
Yeah. And you got to prove it. You got to prove that he's the person that would have caused somebody's death, right? And so that's difficult when you're in a practice where you have an anesthesiologist, right? You have the person that's the intake person for the medical records. So yeah, a lot of this is civil, but I don't know what, the only thing that I question here really is you have this all going on in Illinois. What's stopping you from going to California? And getting a license
doing
there?
The same thing.
People have done it. So that's the big question here. And I think after this story, which is a two-part, this is a very long story, I think we are due for a follow-up at some point, delving into those things because it's not just this dentist. This could happen with
what allowed it.
What allowed it. It can happen with anybody. It can happen with a doctor. It can happen with a rogue police officer that can go to another state and get a job. So there's bigger questions here that I think are worth asking that we will be doing a follow-up on this story. So the first part airs in the 4 o'clock hour, and then later on in the 4 o'clock hour, the second part airs. And the interaction that we had, it was a lot. I'll say that it was a lot. We walked in, we were threatened with calling the police. The guy pulls my jacket. I'm like, you can't be touching folks. You can tell me to leave, but you can't touch me. The dentist didn't do it, but somebody in this office did it. And yeah, it was a lot. But I think the people that we interview, because they're the ones who haven't had their day to have this face-to-face to say, why would you do this? They at least will get some type of, I think, I don't know if they'll be at peace, but I think they'll get some of the answers based on the interaction that I had with him.
It's interesting you bring up law enforcement officers because some states have now laws in the books to say that if you are a rogue officer from one department, you can't just go from one to the next. And it is worth exploring other industries where people are in positions of authority, life-changing authority over people who could just pick up and start over.
And why couldn't it be in a lot of these situations? It really should be universal. It shouldn't just be 4 or 5 states. It should be universal because this stuff. I mean, look. 2012 probation for performing intramuscular sedation without a valid sedation permit in Illinois. I mean, this just goes on and on and on. The records of, questionable practices continues. I mean, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2023, 2024, 2025, and then here we are today. And so there are so many questions here. And like I said, I think we at least answered 90%. So
well, I'm sure people will appreciate your hard work on this.
It was a lot.
And I love the fact that you're already looking to what could come next.
Yeah.
But when do we see part one?
Part one is at 4 o'clock tonight on the news. And then later on in the 4 o'clock hour is part two. That is the whole entirety of this story until we delve again into what will be part three, okay. Part three of the story. So yeah.
We're ready.
I'm always on ready. Yeah. I'm sitting on ready every day.
2:46. We'll be back in 2 minutes, everyone. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Just about 2:50 right now. And you know the saying, the grass isn't always greener on the other side? Well, we've talked a lot about issues for homeowners today, considerations for homeowners today. But let's just pull in an expert in the subject of renting here in Chicago and find out. Crystal Chen with Zumper is joining us now. Is the grass greener on the renting side in the city?
So we at Zumper publish a monthly national rent report that looks at 100 of the most populous U.S. cities, and Chicago is actually back in the national top 10 for the first time in nearly 2 years. Now is the 10th priciest rental market in the U.S. One beds are currently at $2,220, up about 8% annually.
So that would be a no. It's not greener on that side. That's not maybe the list we want to be on. To be that pricey.
Yeah, I think, a few factors are driving this rent surge right now. There's just a lack of new supply being built, unlike a lot of other big markets that were flooded with new apartments in the last few years. Mm-hmm. Chicago's pipelines stayed relatively constrained. There's been, long permitting timelines, high property taxes, and just limited construction financing. And then on the demand side, it's still very real. It's really competitive. There's reports of bidding wars showing up in really sought after neighborhoods for rentals. The multifamily occupancy rate reached over 95% at the end of last year. So there's just, little slack in the system right now, and landlords have the pricing power currently.
Okay, so on this list, who's above us? Who's pricier?
So, unsurprisingly, New York City is the most expensive city. One beds are at over $4,500. San Francisco second, one bed's at $3,850, and then Boston's third with one bed's at $3,000.
Wow. And so when we compare, are they saying, or are you all seeing things that make us in the top five? Like, what puts us in the top five in terms of being so why are we so pricey?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's like a combination of, there's a lot of steady demand in Chicago right now, and there isn't a ton of new supply being built to, meet that demand. And I think, Chicago overall is also a compelling alternative to other pricey coastal cities like New York, San Francisco, and Boston. So people that are priced out of those cities might be, looking for a cheaper alternative in Chicago. So there's just a ton of steady demand, limited supply, and the relative value of Chicago is now driving rents higher.
And do you all find that there are a lot of people who maybe are from New York that say like, I need a break and move to a place like Chicago? Are you all seeing that a lot?
I mean, with one bed's at over $4,500 in New York City, I'm sure that does price out a lot of people. It's probably some of the highest I've seen New York City rents ever. So, and San Francisco as well. So with rents there going higher and higher and higher, like some people will want to leave.
What are the national averages? And I guess I ask like about leaving a place like New York to come here because it's still in the top five for priciness. So would you not skip down to like 100? I mean, is 1 to 5 really helping you that much?
Well, I mean, Chicago's 10th, so there's some cities in between. A lot of them are in California. But I think, Chicago offers a lot of big city amenities that, somewhere down the list wouldn't offer. But in terms of national averages, the national average is one bed is at $1,508. So Chicago is, definitely more expensive than the national average. But I mean, in comparison to a $4,500 one bed or $3,000, one bed, it's still relatively more affordable than that.
And in terms of what you said about maybe some of the most expensive numbers, the highest numbers that you have seen for New York, are these some of the highest you've seen for Chicago before?
Well, I think I would have to look back manually through our historical data, but I think the fact that Chicago is back in the top 10 again after 2 years out of it shows that likely, rents are probably towards some of the highest that it's been in recent years, at least.
So when you all go over this data and you're analyzing it, what would be your advice to people who are in the rental market or, who are trying to figure things out right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're a renter in Chicago today, be prepared to move quickly and have your application, all your documents ready at such a, tight market. The good units definitely don't sit around. Also, I think, in terms of when to look for an apartment, the best deals can generally be found in the winter. So kind of November through February generally. So if you can wait until look then, because property owners tend to price down units ahead of the holidays. So that's a good time to find a deal. And then if you're renewing this year and they're not able to budge on rent, you can always try negotiating terms like offering a longer lease for a smaller bump, or, you can ask for value in terms of waived fees for, pets, parking, maybe an appliance upgrade or some fresh paint, something is better than nothing. And for your renewal, if you could time it to the season, so have it end in the winter, that would help you set up for a better deal next year.
And if someone is trying to calculate, like, how much rent can I afford? What are the things that they should be keeping in mind?
So generally, a good rule of thumb is to not spend more than about 30% of your income on rent. So if you're making, $100,000 a year, the max you should generally spend on rent is about $2,500. So you can use that calculation or keep that in the back of your mind as you think about rent prices.
Again, when you were analyzing the data, were there some other takeaways that you think people need to know about?
Yeah, I think, for Chicago, I don't know when rents are going to come back down, but it's more so, it's the big lever of supply. So I think, if there's units that are able to come on down the line, when permitting gets better, financing loosens up and the taxes get better, then rents will hopefully come down then. But I think, until we get more supply, I think rents will likely stay relatively high, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is very unfortunate. And you talked about sought after neighborhoods at one point in our conversation. Do you all do a listing or data on the sought after neighborhoods for each location on the list?
We can kind of gauge neighborhoods like based on like maybe the number of emails that like people send within the neighborhood, but it's hard to gauge because people who are offering bids above the rent they do it outside of our platform. But I don't have a list right in front of me of the most popular Chicago neighborhoods, but I think you could likely guess which ones.
Well, very interesting talking to you. I mean, it's interesting, and then the data is unfortunate, as we said, because there are so many things that weigh on people's budgets right now. And if we're having conversations about the fact that interest rates, if you're in the market to buy, are inching up, then you think about like, well, you may need to rent longer. And then when we come over here and see this, it's like, oh my goodness, what do we do?
Yeah, exactly. It kind of goes hand in hand too, because since people are priced out of the homeownership, they stay in the rental market longer, which creates just more demand in the rental market and more competition. And yeah, that also fuels kind of driving rents up as well.
True. All becomes cyclical. Thank you so much, Crystal. Great speaking with you.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Take care. 2:58. Give us 2 minutes, and then I'll set you up for our final hour here for the day. right, welcome back, everyone. Just after 3 o'clock, so let's talk about what we're getting into in this final hour of Chicago Live for the day. Hopefully you've been with us since 1 o'clock, but even if you're just joining us now, we've got plenty that we're going to be talking about over this last hour that we have together. We're going to talk about the Haven on Lincoln shelter. It's a new idea, new concept, new effort here in the city where they've taken a motel and turned it into a homeless shelter. If you think about the fact that when people are unhoused, some of the places where they may end up, the amenities they may not have for lengths of time on end. This is one of those efforts that tries to have a solution to some of those things. Housing, but not just housing in a traditional shelter format, but each person would have, each unit would have been, because it was a motel, bathroom, shower, things of that nature that many people may take for granted, but we'll get into the details of what they are providing for people here in the area. We'll have JD Rudd come up and give us an idea of what we can expect weather-wise. I know, be it that it's Thursday, we're starting to kind of get the itch for the long holiday weekend, and so we'll find out whether we're going to be on the cloudy side, whether we can expect any rain, all of those things, anything that could impede the fullness of this kickoff to the summer season. We'll talk about rescued puppies. Oh my goodness, you all know we have become quite invested in this story out of Wisconsin, Ridgeland Farms, the 1,500 beagles that were rescued from there, and the new lives, the new lease on life that they are getting. And so we have another one of our local rescues that's playing a part of changing those puppies' lives, and we'll bring them into the discussion and hopefully get to see the little ones as well. But first, we're going to start off with our lead sports anchor, because, you know, if you or someone you love is a Cubs fan, after the Crosstown Classic, maybe there's a bit of a what's going on in the camp right now. Cassie is standing by. Cassie Carlson, thank you so much. We know you are super busy. I see that Bears logo behind you. We'll get to the Bears shortly. But what's going on with the Cubs?
Yeah, people would love to know that answer, right? Because there were 2 separate times this season where the Cubs run 10-game winning streaks in the first 2 months, and everyone was really excited about the depth they had, especially in their lineup, and despite all the pitching injuries, that they were able to continue to win games. At one point, heading into the series with the Brewers, they were riding a 15-game home winning streak at Wrigley Field. Then all of a sudden, it just falls flat. 2 for 18 with runners in scoring position over the series with the Brewers, where they got swept. So now the question is, where is this offense? Where's all that offensive depth that everyone felt so good about going into the season? And they just can't find it. And then you can add in Pete Crow Armstrong, that storyline that actually dates back to the Crosstown finale, when he got into the verbal altercation, exchanged some words with a fan, ended up reportedly getting fined for that. And since then, it seems like he just, like, you can usually rely on his defense out in center field, and to see an error like we saw last night in center field, unable to field a ball, uncharacteristic. And so a lot of uncharacteristic things are going on right now with the Cubs. And for a team that is supposed to be a contending team, it's one thing to go on a couple games losing streak. It's another thing to be swept by your division rival, especially the Brewers, which has grown into one of their biggest rivalries in baseball over the course of the last 3 days. And just to see the way it was done with a lack of offense, I think is why there is so much concern right now for this Cubs team in the direction that they're going.
Is it too soon to hit the panic button?
Yes. Any manager in baseball or any baseball player will tell you it's too soon to hit the panic button. We are 2.5 months into the season. There's still over 100 games left to be played. And Ian Happ said something over the last 3 days. He's like, if we didn't get to our current win total now with those 2 separate 10-game winning streaks, like if it was more evenly spread out, I don't even think we would be having this conversation. And while managers and players will say that it's a long season, every game game does matter. And so you do kind of start to think of, all right, well, where is the production from someone like Pete Crow Armstrong at the plate coming off of signing that massive deal? Where is it from Alex Bregman, who they signed? Where is it from Dansby Swanson? Ian Happ, Nico Horner started the season so hot and he's leveled off. Moises Ballesteros was on track to become Rookie of the Year because of the way he was slugging, and he's in a slump right now. It seems like all their players are in a slump currently, and usually baseball players will tell you they feed off of one another. Mm-hmm. There's no one to feed off of right now. Mm-hmm. And so that's what the Cubs are trying to figure out, kind of trying to work through. One thing that Bruce Levine reported is that after the game yesterday, for about 40 minutes in the clubhouse, PCA and Bregman were in their jerseys still, having a long conversation in the clubhouse at their lockers. Clearly, they want to try and figure it out, and they are searching for answers. And Craig Counsell is tasked with finding the best lineup that can get production. But they are slumping big time right now.
So do you feel, sometimes people, we're giving you a live look, everybody, outside of Wrigley Field, and sometimes when you hit a little bump in the road, but you are poised for success. These distractions, the fine and all of the internet hoopla over PCA's interaction with the fan, or just the maybe shock of losing to the Sox. I mean, those things just kind of like, you got to get out of your own head to move forward.
I mean, if we know anything about Pete Crow Armstrong, is that he is an emotional guy. And whether it be when he strikes out, whether it be in celebration, when he homers, whether it be the repercussions that have happened since last Sunday with the fan interaction, like, he definitely wears his emotions on his sleeve. And maybe this is a case where he needs a day off. Now, the Cubs are off today before they start a series with the Astros tomorrow. And so maybe today being an off day is good for him to kind of reset. And remember, he's like 24 years old. Mm-hmm. A lot of these players, when they're young, they haven't experienced something like that before, where they are in the spotlight for a reason, to which he said he wishes he used different words in that interaction. And so that there has been a lot of noise around it. It has garnered a ton of attention, and I'm sure as a player he's wanting it to just go away and so he can move on. But it's part of being a professional athlete, is being able to focus. Ian Happ is one of the more veteran players, and he said, sometimes you are in that outfield and you try to tune out the crowd noise and the people who are behind you in the outfield, but sometimes you just get so fixated on it. And so hopefully today, as the off day and welcoming in an Astros team that isn't very good, allows them to go into a new series fresh this weekend, a holiday weekend, where they're able to get back on track. But one thing, Dansby Swanson sat down with Tina Nguyen yesterday, and she asked him about the offensive struggles. And he's like, a lot of times there's like no rhyme or reason. Obviously, they're trying to fix what they need to fix, but a lot of times it's one player getting hot, the next guy in the batting order feeding off of him, and that kind of has a ripple effect to the rest of the team.
Yeah, you talked about PCA being an emotional player, and this possibly being the first time he's taken on this level of negative attention, if you will, and I'm sure the internet being what it is, now that they've seen where you can poke and get a reaction, that might, he might need to figure out a way to deal with it now, because it might not be going away for a while for other teams, other fans that he may meet along the way. But he did strike up a close relationship with Caleb Williams. And if there's one person who took a lot of poke in season one that turned that around and then used it as ammunition that next year, it would be Caleb.
It would be. And, they had a pizza dinner the other night at Zarella's Pizza, so I'm sure they talk about it all the time. It is really cool to see. There was an Instagram photo that went around. That's how everyone knows that, because it was Caleb Williams, Pete Crow Armstrong, Modest Buzelis. That's kind of the clique that hangs out, and they're at each other's games supporting one another. It's a really cool thing to see. Like, I don't know if we've seen anything like that since maybe back in the 90s with the Bulls. But I think that Caleb does have perspective on this. A lot of these players, they are these mega athletes, they're these mega superstars. They sign these massive deals, and they don't ask for the stardom. Like, the stardom comes because of their talent that they have. And so it is part of navigating what it's like to be in the spotlight, and you are held to a different standard. I think sometimes a lot of these young players have to learn the hard way. And I think Pete Crow-Armstrong definitely learned his lesson. Like, he's had conversations with teammates. Craig Counsell, I'm sure, has had conversations with him. Jed Hoyer, I know, had a conversation with him. And this is just one of those learning experiences. And it's, you know, like I said, again, like, Pete did not ask for the attention. He's really good at what he does. And unfortunately, you are under a magnifying glass. Everything that you do is amplified. Everything that you say can be recorded. And so it is definitely a learning lesson. And I think from what we heard from him, he feels apologetic towards the situation. He said he wishes he used a different selection of words, especially doesn't reflect, and the people and women in his life wouldn't be proud of that. And so I think that maybe there's a lot of weight that comes with that he's feeling, not only from, you know, internally in the clubhouse and in the Cubs organization from the conversations that he's had, but also externally.
Okay, well, let's talk about Hallis Hall and the Bears. Caleb and the Bears. What has you there today?
Yeah, so the Bears are currently in their off-season workouts. We don't get to see anything going on the field right now, but we did get to talk to all of the assistant coaches today. So we don't really hear from them that often, but to have them sitting at these tables behind me, it's kind of a free-for-all. You can set down your microphone and start just asking questions in a very loose setting. So we talked to everyone from Al Harris, who is excited to have 2 new weapons in his secondary with both safety Kobe Bryant and rookie Dylan Thieneman. I asked him about what the speed plus versatility of those 2 guys at that position allow them to do on defense. And he said, point blank, whatever we want. So clearly they feel like the defense can dictate what they do, and that is going to be used as a weapon. He also feels like this defense, which had 33 takeaways and led the league last year in that category, can replicate it. And many people say that's really tough to do year after year, but Al Harris believes that he emphasizes it so much to these players. He is so obsessed with takeaways. You could really go back to all the players he's coached in his history of his career, and they have been elite in that category. And so he believes that they can do it again. Then we talked to Jeremy Garrett. He is the defensive line coach. There is going to be a lot of eyes on that D line because they didn't add anyone in the offseason. They didn't draft anyone. How they're able to produce more, get more pressure on quarterbacks. And Coach Garrett said that in the last 2 weeks, they have not talked about scheme at all. It's been strictly fundamentals. And so that's what their focus is going to be on, as they have said they need to coach these guys better. On the offense, JT Barrett, he is the quarterback's coach, really excited to be with Caleb Williams for a second year in Ben Johnson's system. He said there's already throws that he's making in practice that he's like, oh my gosh, like, this guy's ridiculous. So it just gets you a little bit more excited for the season. And then we also talked to Dan Rochar, the offensive line coach, who he's going to deal with some left tackle competition and potentially a competition at center. And he basically said, whether you're looking at left tackle, whether you're looking at center, all he wants to see is consistency, practice after practice from each of his guys. And basically whoever shows that the most will earn those starting jobs.
Whew, things are heating up. So let's see. What calendar-wise, I mean, what comes up next here for their team as they're walking toward the season?
So they're right now in OTAs, organized team activities. That lasts, it's like 3 phases. So they're in the middle of it right now. That goes till mandatory minicamp, which I believe is the 2nd week in June. Then they'll break for the summer, and then they'll start training camp back up, which is, they haven't announced the dates yet, but I would expect it to start probably last week of July. And that leads into training camp, into preseason games, into week 1 at Carolina.
A win leads into a win.
Oh, yeah. And then Super Bowl, right, Anita?
Exactly. Cassie, wonderful speaking with you. Thank you so much, as always.
Thanks, Anita. Talk
Take
soon.
Care. All right, 3:15. Give us 2 minutes, everyone, and we'll be back to talk about the rescued puppies. Welcome back, everyone. 3:18 right now, and this is month 2 that we have stayed on this story out of Wisconsin, the Ridgeland Farms, and different puppies going different places, and it's been so beautiful to see all of their rescue stories. But keep in mind that our humane societies, our animal advocates, they are working around the clock doing this type of work. Some rescues are huge. Some rescues get all of the the national attention, and rightfully so. But we want to make sure we show what's happening on a regular basis, the need and the work that's happening on a regular basis. And in fact, Cook County authorities rescued 12 pit bull mix puppies, 2 adult dogs from a home in Harvey after investigators said the animals were abandoned there. We have Jordan Chapman, development manager with the South Suburban Humane Society, who is joining us now to tell us more about what's going on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Do you have the babies with you?
Yes, so they're in a foster home. So I came over to give them a visit.
They are precious.
There's Mama as well.
Oh, that's Mama. Hi, Mama. Oh, my goodness. Okay, tell me more about their story.
Yeah, so Cook County's animal control has properties that they kind of keep an eye on if there are stray dogs that are reported to be hanging out, or loose dogs in general. And so they have been keeping an eye on one property in Harvey in specific, and it was noted that there was a loose dog there. Was it last week? And so they went over with their animal crimes unit of Cook County and found 2 adult dogs and 12 very small puppies on the premises. So they were taken into custody at that time by Cook County Animal Services and then brought to South Suburban for us to take care of.
I mean, did they find the people behind this? Like, oh my goodness, how do you leave all of those babies and Mama?
Yes. So from my understanding, there is more to the story, and they're looking into things and kind of looking at who they can hold responsible based on the information that they have. So that's something that's ongoing with Cook County and their animal control and their animal crimes unit.
Mm-hmm. Well, props to the foster family.
Thank you.
It really showcases the importance of foster families, that they stepped in when you have 12 puppies and 2 adult dogs. What happens now?
What happens now is they hang out and grow, and our foster here not only has this group of puppies, but some cats and kittens as well. So, so she's got a full house. But once they hit 4 weeks, they'll get their first set of vaccines. Then 6 weeks they'll get their next set, and then 8 weeks they'll get their third set. They'll get spay and neutered, and then they'll be available for adoption from there.
She is such a good mama. She's like making sure all goes well with her babies.
She is. She's on it.
I love it. I love it. Tell me, about the phone calls that you all get to step in at the last minute like this.
Yeah, because we work with Cook County quite a bit, and all of the intakes in the county come in to us for the most part. So it's kind of one of those things that's unfortunately not surprising anymore to most of us and our intake staff, because it's just like, well, all right. Mm-hmm. There was a handful of weeks ago, there was a crate full of 30 cats.
30?
Ranging in yes, 30 cats. Well, 26 cats in a crate and 4 younger cats in a box, but rounding up on that one. And it's one of those that it's like, it's tricky because it doesn't surprise us, but also just like glad that they're here, glad that they're out of that situation, and now they can get comfy, as Mom clearly is.
What kind of support do you all get? How do you all do what you do, and what do you need?
Yeah, so we are a nonprofit organization, so we run on donations. We do get grants when we apply for them, which is fairly regularly with PetSmart in order to help our low-cost clinic. But for our normal operations and day-to-day, we rely heavily on donations, both monetary and, in kind, as far as supplies, stuff like that. Dog food, litter, cat food, canned puppy food, because mom is eating not only dry food, but she's feeding 12 children now. So any type of physical donation goes a long way as well, not just monetarily. And then we also have events and fundraisers throughout the year that people can take part in and help participate the animals for the animals in our care as well.
And I mean, the summer months, how are they typically for you all?
Quite busy, to be honest. Right now we're in the heart of kitten season, so every stray cat and their brother and mother and sister are having kittens. So it's a battle all of the time. I think today at like 3 o'clock, 2:30, I said, oh my gosh, with the cats, because there was like 10 different posts on our intake channel of new cats that came in. So it's just one of those, like, it just never stops. And as it gets warmer, animals are out and about, and they're doing their animal thing. And when they're not spay and neutered and they're on the loose, unfortunately, that's where we usually meet them. So it's quite busy as it warms up.
Yeah. And I mentioned, as I was introducing you, getting ready to come to you, that we have stories that become national, and they're very important for everyone to know about. We become very invested in them. How is it for smaller animal rescues and the work that you're doing, getting the word out about that?
Yeah, being small is always a challenge, because there's a ton of small shelters and rescues, and there's, a handful of bigger ones. And so it's, as life gets more expensive, it gets harder to take care of your pets. It gets harder to have, the funds and resources to donate as we want to, and as we normally would when life was cheaper. So it's competitive when it comes to grants and getting funding that are from, bigger organizations and places like that we can apply for. But we're finding that through our fosters and our quote unquote everyday and, more regular volunteers, that support and the support that we have from those kind of friends truly does make a difference, because it lasts so much longer than the occasional drop by, here's $100. But the friends that are with us that help at the shelter, help at adoption events, and invite their friends to follow and like us and share that kind of stuff, that's kind of, I think, where we do well as a shelter, is because we aren't shy to make friends with anybody.
Yeah. Okay, Jordan, have you all named all the babies?
Are they named yet?
They are.
They are named, yes.
Okay, run us through.
Well, I honestly don't know which one's which, but they are January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December.
Well, it's smart. 12 babies.
So they're the best.
All the months.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
They're really good. She's a good mama.
Look at them. I could take the rest of the show just looking at them.
Yes.
How many girls, how many boys?
I'm actually not sure. I haven't been messing with them very much. This is their first time outside.
Yeah, this is their first look at the sun.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. What kind of care goes into as the foster, to having that many puppies?
So for when they're this young, it's really quite easy. Mama does everything. I just keep her fed.
Okay.
And let her go in and out as she needs to. She keeps the babies clean. She feeds them. Their eyes are not open yet, but it will be soon. I can tell they're reacting to the light out here. And they're starting to put their weight up on their feet, do a little bit of a combat crawl. And the shelter provides all the food that I need. And then as they get older and they start eating some food themselves, that's when it gets messy.
Yeah.
That's when we need all the pee pads and do all the training. But we spend a lot of time outside, and I'm lucky to live in a neighborhood where there's lots of kids that will come and help socialize them. Aww. And they get used to their dogs at the fence, and it's really great.
Oh, and they have the most precious mama. She just wants to be rubbed.
Such a good dog.
What's her name?
Mary.
Mary.
Yes.
Mother Mary.
Mother Mary. Oh, she's doing a great job. And so are all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, just to be able to see Mary and the babies January through December.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for the work that you do year round, Jordan. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Give us updates.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So cute. Oh my goodness. I always say, you know, I see so much value in the foster families that take in puppies. I just know I'd be a failure. I would want to keep all of them every time. But what a special job. Oh, what a special pup. All right, 3:30, everyone. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be back. JD Rudd just walked in, so we're going to bring him in to talk about the weather. Okay, we're back at 3:32 right now. JD Rudd is here with me, and it's been an interesting day outside.
Aren't they all a little bit on the
interesting side?
Precarious,
Yeah.
head scratching,
Yeah.
wonderment of the whole
Wonderment.
deal?
Yes,
Yeah.
I like that. Wonderment. This is a view from our 2800 camera, everybody, and you can see that water. Oh my, it's beautiful.
Sure.
It's been choppy,
Yeah.
you know, but beautiful. Our city, the one thing I always say about Chicago is, quite honestly, there's no bad view.
No.
Like,
Gosh, no.
you know, even when we have bad weather, like when you look out over the city,
Yeah.
it's just like, wow.
you get some views that are just jaw drop, make you stop for a second.
Really does. You know, you see all those folks out at the Bean, and let's call into attention all those jackets and hoodies that people are wearing. It was a little chilly earlier today, especially.
Yes. This morning we had temperatures in the 40s, and we are still stuck with that northeast wind, which is keeping a lid on temperatures the closer you are to the lakefront. But this is one of those, I like to call them real estate kind of days, because it's all about your location, location, location. If you're close to the lakefront, it's certainly jackets and maybe even a heavier coat in some cases. If you're farther away from the lake, you're probably in shorts and t-shirts right now. Temperatures are close to 70. I mean, it's one of those kind of a day.
Big difference, yeah.
Huge swing in things. Let me just kind of show you. There it is right there. It's 57 at the lakefront, 51 in Waukegan. That's it. But meanwhile, Kankakee at 70. Rensselaer 69, LaSalle 68.
Man,
so it's
I just know when I saw 40, I didn't need to see the number behind it. I was like, four.
Yeah. A little bit chilly this morning. There's no way around that. I mean, but it's also that time of the year you have these wilder temperature swings back and forth. And with that said, I've got the next item queued up and ready to go here. This is going to be for our holiday weekend. Check this out.
Look at the graphics you're making.
Well, you know, I got a little spare time on my hands. But this is the big story here. Look at this warm-up. You want to talk about the unofficial start to summer coming in right on cue? I mean, this is it. Saturday, 70. Sunday, 77. Memorial Day, Monday.
Cue it up.
Sunday, 82. Cue it and roll it, and let's stay with it. Lows will be in the 50s all 3 days. I don't want to overlook that. So I know there's a smattering of things to put into this forecast, but I know with it being Memorial Day weekend, many folks might go camping, might head out to the lake, might just go somewhere and try to spend time outside. I want you to know it is going to be kind of cool, if not a little bit chilly in the morning hours.
Bring the jackets.
Yes, don't overlook that. But then in the afternoon, this is fantastic. And I threw the wind on there. Each day, wind speeds around 10 to 15 miles per hour. And I think that's important for a couple of reasons. One, overall looks like a dry weekend. We've been overall dry lately. We've got dry conditions, dry ground out there. Memorial Day, many folks trying to barbecue, trying to grill. Be mindful of wildfires. That's the precautionary thing to mention. And then in addition to that, I put the wind on there because if you are outside with paper plates, paper cups, napkins, you know how this goes. Gust of wind comes up, potato salad in your lap, lemonade on your shoes. It's one of those things where you're like, what is this? And the kids are running around, the dog's barking, and it's just turns into a mess.
It turns into a mess. Now, I'll add one more thing for the wind, because this morning, and I don't know if we have a camera, this morning we had red flags at the beach.
Yes.
So, you might go out to the beach. What will people be able to get in the water?
So one of our directors asked me that about 10 or 15 minutes ago, and I said, listen, that's a personal thing, because the wind's going to shift around and the wind won't be strong enough where we're going to have beach hazard issues. But the water temperatures are only around 50 degrees right now. That is some cold water. So if you are one of those that are like, I'm going to brave it, I'm going to do it. I hope you have something warm to wrap yourself in when you're done.
When the flags are not flying. You know, we've already had, quite honestly, you know, we had, you know, a death this week in the water. So it seems like, okay, these are routine things to say, but every year we also see where things go awry, and therefore these are really important things to say.
It takes one accident, it takes one misstep, it takes one just bad thought. Where you're like, oh, I can do this, or something. And it can turn devastating in a hurry. And as we mentioned, with this being a holiday weekend, so many folks out and about, there are going to be those that are going to be partaking in some libations, some what have you, and they're going to go, I can handle that 50-degree water.
Too.
So just be cautious in whatever you're doing. Just be mindful. I know we've all been cooped up for so long. We're all antsy to get out there. People get along. You get 3 or 4 day holiday weekend. You're feeling that, you get a few beverages in you. Just be cautious, whether you're just tiptoeing in the water or even out on a boat, a pontoon.
Oh, that too.
One of those deals. I mean, you could be nice and warm in a jacket on that pontoon, you're having a couple drinks, and then before you know it, something happens. So caution is all we can preach over and over.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the key to the weekend is to make it on the other side, right?
Yes.
So we want to make sure everybody makes it to the other side of the enjoy the weekend, but make it to the other side of it. And what do we have on the other side of it?
That's a great way to put it, because once we get to the other side of the holiday weekend, here comes summer almost, it would seem. 80s are going to stay with us, Anita. 85 on Tuesday, 82 on Wednesday, 80 on Thursday of next week. I've seen some long-term forecast numbers that are suggesting the last 2 days of this month could be close to 90.
Ooh.
So, I mean, we're talking about how chilly it was this morning, people in jackets right now. That business may be gone after this holiday weekend. So if you're tired of the cool, if you're tired of the 40s, if you're tired of keeping that jacket handy, you might not have to do so.
The tide is turning.
Oh, it sure is. And I'm optimistic we're going to keep it this way, but...
Dun, dun, dun.
Thank you. As a meteorologist, I wouldn't be doing my part if I didn't say, don't be surprised to have one minor step back as we go into the month of June. I feel like we always get one every year, and the pattern just kind of goes like this. We get 1 or 2 warm days early on, then it's cool. Then we get 3 or 4 warm days, then it's cool. Then you get like a week of warm days, then it gets cool. Then you get 2 weeks, you're like, okay, we've made it. You get that one little cold snap, and then you're finally out of that. So don't be surprised to see a little retreat in June.
Can we go back to that 7-day? I'd also like to mention, so your Friday, have we been lowering the chance of rain?
So that's what I think I was going to say. I don't want to gloss over that, because for those who do have a 4-day holiday weekend beginning tomorrow, good news here, the storm system that was expected to come up our way looks like it's going to hang far enough south.
You see how I pay close attention to
and
your
I appreciate
forecast.
that you do. So I have pulled down that rain chance. I'm just going to leave a 20% in there to account for maybe a late evening shower. I can't rule that out, but it looks like this thing is slower to move our direction and may stay farther south. So we may get by dry tomorrow.
Very nice.
That said, I still have that 20% in there on Sunday because I'm still seeing some signals late Saturday night into Sunday morning. Maybe there's a shower somewhere in the area. So just leaving that chance in there just to be on the safe side. But I think when you actually focus on Memorial Day Monday with all the events, all the outdoor activities, everything else like that, that looks like a great day.
Yeah. You know, some people talk and then when they finish, you're like, what did you say? What did they say? When he speaks about this forecast, he explains it so well.
Anita,
I'm like,
it's the only
well,
thing I know
JD
anything
said
about.
on May 10th, and JD said after May 20th.
And so far we're doing okay. We've yet to hit that 90, but I got a feeling we're going to get there. Some folks don't want to get there yet. Let's not hide that fact.
Because spring and fall don't get love in the state of Illinois. That's why. So we really didn't get spring. We got sprinter.
So we don't have time to dive into this, but I've always said in this part of the country, we don't have 4 seasons.
Right.
We have 10 of them. 10.
Well,
I'll
that could be one day.
For you. Well, you can do that, but we always have first winter, we have second winter, we have fake spring, return to winter number 3, then we have what we think is spring, then back to last winter, and then it goes right into road construction and summer season, and then we also have brief fall, return of summer. I'll have to name them all for you in a big graphic one of these days.
It gets real confusing.
Yes.
It gets real confusing around
Welcome
here.
to the life of a meteorologist around here. It's good employment for us, but my goodness, there's a reason why I've got gray hair and I'm only 12.
Right. Exactly. You were doing so well with your numbers until you said 12.
Well, thanks.
Kind of put a question mark on everything else now, but thanks for coming up. We
Yes,
appreciate it. 3:41, everyone. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be back. Welcome back, everyone. Just about 3:45 right now, so it's time for our final conversation for the day here on Chicago Live. And it's one that highlights a problem in our community, in our city, but also a new take on solutions. And so I'm really glad to have Andrew Winter, the Executive Director for Cornerstone Community Outreach, here to talk about the Haven on Lincoln Shelter. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Glad to be here with you today.
So this is Chicago's first shelter that gives each resident their own private bathroom equipped room, taking a motel and turning it into a homeless shelter. Tell me how that is like a game changer in the work that you do.
Yeah, thank you. So Cornerstone has been working with people experiencing homelessness for over 3.5 decades. And this is the first time we're really seeing such a significant investment into really dignified private spaces. The city network has had non-congregate shelter for families, but this is the first of its kind where it is fully non-congregate for individuals, where each room is for one person. What we see a lot is that non-congregate shelter creates that more private space where people can kind of close the door and really decompress like we would all want to. And so this is a significant change in that model, and we're grateful to be selected for this movement.
How many rooms are there?
Yeah, the Haven will have 37 individual rooms. Picture like a studio apartment or a hotel room, with private bed, full bath, TV, all the amenities that you would want for yourself in a space.
Did this come about from speaking to those who come into other shelters and kind of finding out what more they needed, or by other means?
No, that's a great question. It's very important to us to work with people with lived expertise who understand the best way to have care provided. And, much work was done by the city of Chicago, many partners, including Cornerstone, over the years to really develop these really more significant and dignified spaces. And the folks that we serve really do speak into the daily work. It's hard to live in a very large shared space, is something we've heard. It's also, I can't really lock up and protect my own stuff. I don't feel comfortable. Feedback like that really led to these private rooms to provide a more dignified space.
Does it make it easier or harder to provide wraparound services in this type of setting?
I think what changes is that each individual has more time to process what they need. They can step away from other, shelter residents. They can step away from staff and really process their needs. So I think that the congregate setting does provide a lot of good opportunities, and this will provide that time for the individual to process. And then I think it really is going to prove that they'll be more likely to access the available services because of that more individualized time that they'll have.
Mm-hmm. And then is it a lease, or how long can people stay there? How does the whole thing work?
Yeah, thank you. So it's called transitional housing, or in Chicago more commonly called shelter. It is a free place to live for individuals that are experiencing homelessness that need the time for themselves to move to permanent housing. An average stay can be between 6 and 9 months, though there isn't a time limit. It's really more kind of goal supported per individual, like what do you need now, how long will that take, and how can we support you get to where you need to be. So no lease, it's a fee-free service that is part of the City of Chicago's shelter network, and Cornerstone is one of the many delegate agencies providing like services to the people of Chicago.
Is this like a pilot project, or is this a full-scale new direction for addressing the issue of homelessness in the city of Chicago?
Yeah, I think we've moved beyond pilot in the city of Chicago, where, during the COVID pandemic, there was a pilot program around isolation housing for individuals experiencing homelessness who are at risk of contracting COVID. And really good studies prove that this can be a more effective style of housing. So this is, like I said, beyond pilot, where there are several organizations in Chicago that are partnering with the Chicago Department of Housing and the Chicago Department of Family Support Services through 2 different initiatives to create new and renovate existing spaces to be non-congregate shelter. There's goals around 300 beds that they want to create. Even though we think in the term of like family rooms or individual rooms, there's more than a pilot. It's a movement to create these spaces, and it's citywide, it's statewide, and really across the U.S. this is happening. And providers have known this is a need, but really what it comes down to is significant municipal investment and private funding to make this possible. It's not cheap to build units of housing in Chicago or elsewhere, but these investments have made it possible.
Yeah, and when you talk about it not being cheap to build places of housing, this was the Diplomat Motel, and I'm seeing Once Notorious. Why Once Notorious? So what was going on at the Diplomat?
Well, I've never stayed at the Diplomat myself, but I know that they were created as welcoming environments for travelers. You know, Lincoln Avenue used to be the main thoroughfare into the city of Chicago, and so many of those motels built kind of post-war, 50s and 60s, were a place of welcoming. But as the needs changed over the decades, where new paths into downtown, like the different expressways and new hotels were developed, these ones got less use. As for the notorious nature, I'll let others speak to that, but I saw them more as opportunities to take an existing facility and redevelop it, which is a more environmentally sound way to do construction. You put less waste into the system and you repurpose what exists. And so it's really exciting to have worked with Gensler and ECI to create a space that is once again very welcoming and really best in class. Really, and I don't know if it came up in your reading, but it's also a fully electric facility. So being able to be self-sustaining, and especially in the summer, it's exciting to us to be at that fully electric facility to decarbonize the space too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there are so many buildings around the city that are empty. Do you look at others? Do you have your eye on any others? Are there any others in the works?
Yeah, thank you. So it did take a long time to find a feasible opportunity. You know, Cornerstone looked at over 25 different buildings across 7 different wards to land here, and really it's in partnership with the City of Chicago, like I said earlier, Department of Housing, that really this is their initiative to create these non-congregate shelters, and also the Department of Family Support Services to renovate what exists. Cornerstone is working with the Department of Family Support Services to renovate a current facility to enhance non-congregate and accessibility there. And then, you know, what's next is, you know, one thing that we're working on is increasing access to behavioral health care and medical respite in the shelter setting. And so if new facilities are available or necessary for that, we'll continue to be in partnership with the different city and state entities working on those initiatives.
Mm-hmm. I think what you're doing is amazing. Okay, I'll say that. I think that this is also like a piece of the greater. And so when I think 37 rooms, I think that is phenomenal, quite honestly, phenomenal. But how big of an issue is homelessness in the city of Chicago?
We see it growing. You know, for our city, where pricing for rental units continues to rise, where income isn't matching that increase, we continue to see that increase in need for more housing, which would reduce the experience of homelessness in our city and state. I don't know the exact percentage, but I know that more people are entering homelessness than are entering housed on a daily. You know, the Chicago Continuum of Care partners work very diligently to create and sustain permanent supportive housing, and then the wraparound services for that too. I think the need for a shelter is a symptom of housing, not having enough housing in our city. And I think, you know, there's many good movements around increasing permanent housing, and we support that, and we hope for more of that. As we develop shelters with the city, 37 isn't a large number. We think of the different encampments and neighborhoods where people need housing to get out of those spaces, far exceed what's available. And so I think the goal is to continue to invest in dignified, quality places to be, and continue to encourage, alderpersons and philanthropy to invest in those opportunities in their wards and across the city.
And just on a final note here, you mentioned, family rooms. Mm-hmm. Can you touch on how many of the unhoused are children?
Yeah. So when we think of Cornerstone specifically, more than half of those we serve on a daily basis are children in families experiencing homelessness. And we see the ebb and flow of that impact, kids not being able to attend school, families having to relocate mid-school semesters, really has a lasting negative impact, for these kids that are in their developmental years. So, at any given day, Cornerstone is able to provide shelter for up to 45 families, and we're only one of many family shelters in the city of Chicago, so that the need for family housing is great also.
Well, thank you for helping to break cycles. Thank you for helping to change lives, and for coming on the show to talk to us about this newest effort with the Haven on Lincoln. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's an honor to be invited here today to talk about the work in the city and that Cornerstone Community Outreach is doing. And, on our website, ccolife.org, you can find out more about this specific project and find ways that if your mission aligns with what we're doing, we welcome you to connect with us.
Andrew, thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
It's 3:56, everyone, and we'll be right back in 2 minutes to close out the show. All right, welcome back, everyone. Thanks, as always, for being here with us. Another day of Chicago. We try to types of issues in our community, trends to policies that are called and need to be rescued. Then even those who are stepping in to help the unhoused. And there are wonderful people who are stepping in, filling the gaps. Yes, there are a lot of issues that we face, and so we'll be right back here tomorrow talking to those.
It has to be. That is good. Awesome. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Chef. We're watching you on Master Chef. We'll see you tomorrow.